Hey, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Matt is one of my closest friends, and we got to know each other when he partnered together with one of my bigger projects in my career. And this was many years ago. I was tasked to help give the American Airlines C.R. Smith Museum a facelift. And Matt was a freelancer on that project, but his fingerprints are all over the museum. He was responsible for the whole inner history wall of the museum, which is probably about 40% of the museum, and till this day is a top 5 project in my career. Today, Matt is the head of EVIN Creative, an agency here in Dallas. Before we start, Matt, where can listeners find your work?
Yeah, definitely. It's evincreative.com, and that is spelled EVIN and then creative. So you can find everything there, and I'm actually overhauling the site right now, but there's a little bit of content that you can find, and you can also contact me through that as well.
Awesome. Now, since we're friends, I know you went out on your own pretty early, and you left, working for an employer, and you started your agency, and it was successful pretty early on. Did you have any reservation going out on your own?
Of course. I think looking back, I think they're even in design school, they would talk about having your own company, being out on your own, whether it's freelance or what have you. And I remember there's just some kind of appeal to that. Maybe there's just always that entrepreneurial spirit in me, I think, looking backwards. So I think it was always there. I'm a very safe person. I'm adventurous, but when it really comes down to it, in many things like finances, job security, just life security, I should say, I'm pretty safe. So something like this, I was, I would say pretty scared to make that jump. I remember even making graphs and charts and stuff like that to weigh out the options of staying where I'm at or moving on or whatever, and weighing out the pros and cons. And man, I remember doing that at least a year before I actually made the move. So reservations for sure. I was scared, and I even told myself, it's like, if I get right around half a year to a full year's worth of work that falls in my lap, then I'll make the move, because at that point, I know that it's safe enough to do that. And then if I ever have to, I can go back to the workforce if it doesn't work out. That was my safety point that I put in my head. And, after a while, within a few months, jobs came in and referrals, and I had about 3/4 of a year of work, and it happened. And so that's when I told myself, like, this is the time to go. Like you said to yourself, a while back, a year ago, if this happens, here it is. It's time to make the move. And I'm glad I did, but scared? Oh, definitely.
I think you made, obviously, the right decision. And being 14, 15 years into your agency now, could you tell people a little bit about who your clients are, some of the work that EVIN Creative has done for?
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, we've done everything like you said, the American Airlines Museum, American Airlines themselves. That is one of my favorite ones, not only because we work together, but it was just such a sweet job. That actually launched me into Fort Worth was going to unveil world-class Air and Space Museum. And I was 29 years old, and they pulled me in to be the head creative of branding a world-class museum. That was a sweet project. ADP, Inky Wheels, Anheuser-Busch, CES, Freeman Companies, Cardinal Health, SMU, Visa, Disney, Complex Magazine, Frito-Lay, Samsung. I can list plenty, big names out there. And I've, worked on many, large company, blue chip, Fortune 500 type of companies. Primarily, most of my clientele is the corporate world. And so I've done them them as well as a lot of startup companies. And startups I really enjoy because you're basically creating the full entire look of a company that can really set them forward. So I've had my hand in a lot of startups, and that's enjoyable as well.
Those are some big recognizable brands that you just listed over there. So when a brand like that comes to you, and for people who don't know what agency work, what are they actually asking you to provide them? What creative solution are they asking?
Yeah, definitely. From high level to low level, it can be anything from, I'm partnering with another ad agency, top level ad agency in town. I do that a lot. That's the great thing about my business model that I set up. I'm very modular. So I act like a freelancer. I act like a boutique agency. And then I partner with large firms, around town, but also nationwide. And I can really move around quite easily. So obviously, because of that, it comes with a whole lot of things as far anywhere from high level to I am brand creator. I am creating a brand and developing a brand from scratch. So a startup comes in, they have absolutely nothing. And so it's not just logo identity design. It's all the collateral that comes with it. It's all the strategy that comes with the collateral. For instance, we develop their look, we develop their logo, their identity, but then we go into what will the whole collateral, what will their corporate messaging be, what will it look like, how will their audience receive it. So there's really in-depth strategy behind all that. Photography, what style of photography? How do we source the photography? Do we take it ourselves? That kind of thing, all the way down to you have an agency in town that needs some backup and some help. Or sometimes, for instance, Frito-Lay, I was pulled in from a large agency to be one of 3 designers to come up with redesigning the Frito-Lay main website. And for instance, in that particular situation, they'll have one person come in and say, do a corporate safe look. Then I came in, they're like, we want something that pushes the boundaries. Then they had an in-house person to do, another option that's a little bit safer. That way, when, they have a full gamut of options to pick from. So in that type of situation, I was pulled in just for one job. But yeah, it was a big job. I mean, Frito-Lay's, actual customer-facing website was a pretty big one and a fun one to do. So anything from high level of brand creation from the startup, anyway, all the way down to just, a particular project that might be just print or interactive or maybe like digital ads that you're setting up or a touch screen, something like that. So it's a full gamut of needs pretty much.
This is a question I have a curiosity about. Like, say we couldn't use EVIN Creative, and you have one of your family members or friends came up to you and say, Matt, I'm trying to pick an agency because I have this business, XYZ. How do I choose from who to pick from? Because all these websites look cool. How do I choose which agency is the best partner for me?
For sure. A lot of people are going to make that decision off price. And I understand that. That is a huge determining factor. However, I would say be careful of that. This is an investment. If this is your business, your company, and you need like a rebranding or branding from the startup, really, really research, really treat this as an investment. If it's just a one-off thing, like I just need a brochure or something like that, okay, you got a little bit of leeway in that. But the bigger that's at stake, treat it seriously as an investment. Now, looking into what makes an agency a good agency versus, I wouldn't say poor, but just, sub-level or whatever, the work always dictates it. Look at the work, look at their portfolio, that kind of thing. But most people stop there. And I would say what I pride myself and my agency on, and especially lately, especially the brands and my clients that I'm working with, primarily all throughout this year, what makes my life and my job truly enjoyable. I love what I do. I've loved what I do ever since then. Once I got into design, I've just enjoyed it. And, but what I truly, especially lately, what I've really enjoyed is the partnerships with my clients. Like, I literally take it so serious that their success is my responsibility. I am going to not only put my best foot forward, I am going to treat this like my own baby, because that's their baby. My key, what would you call it? My goal for my clients, I truly want them to succeed. And my responsibility is anything in visual communications that gets the end customer or the end client or the end audience to really, what would you say, to really respond, I guess, generally speaking, to respond to whatever they're trying to put out, whatever message they're trying to convey through, the visuals and the graphics and everything that I'm creating. I want my client to succeed. I want them, their end users to get it, to enjoy it, to, whatever it might be. So going back to look for an agency that really takes your brand, takes your company seriously, personally almost. I'm almost friends with my clients to that level, and they see it in me. I'm very driven, honestly. I'm very intense and very driven. And I'm just that way in my personal life. And I bring that into my business, and they basically come to me saying, Matt, we need this, this, and this. Sure, I am going to, make sure that they, take off and they succeed. So if you're looking for a company, look for that personal level that not only just treating you like a human, but just really I'm going to do everything to nail this. Not only is my caliber super high, you see it in my work, you see it in my recommendations. That's another thing. Look at their recommendations, look at their testimonials. What are people saying about them? For me, like you said, I've been in the business for it's been about 14 to 15 years. All my clients are referral. I don't go out and seek opportunities really that much, if at all. And so if I drop the ball, if I'm just kind of half-heartedly doing this, you don't get that reputation. You don't get that, especially this long. Look for companies who have that reputation, who have referrals, who have people saying, yeah, they're killing it. We loved not only the work they produced, we loved working with them. Those two things are 1-2 punch. Look for that.
Yeah, because we have conversations, obviously, and because as friends, I know that you're invested. And that's the main thing I'd like to say to anybody, is that you're invested in your clients' success. And I know with you, because I've pointed people your direction when they need work, there isn't a project that's too small that you don't take seriously, all the way to your big projects. I want to transition to another question, because I think young designers or people who want to partake in or want to go in a direction of having a creative career, they have a lot of opportunities because there's such a gamut of different things that you can do. If you had to tell a young designer or even high school students what makes your job, having an agency, super cool, and what makes you really excited about it?
Let's see.
What are the best parts? What are the coolest parts about it?
So let me go back to when I was in, those shoes. And I remember originally I wanted to be an architect. I think that's what I was, going for. And the only reason that I came up with that is I was a high school dropout for about 3 years. I went back, and when I went back, it's my senior year. I've been out of school. I catch up the first 2 years in a semester, just kicking my butt and trying to get through this fast-paced program that they set up for me. And then it's my last year, my quote-unquote senior year. And it's like, well, you want to go to college? I'm like, well, I guess I can now. I didn't really think about it that far. And so what do I want to do? Well, let's see. When I was a kid, I'd like to play with Legos and build cities for my micro machine cars and all that stuff. And so that's I like creativity. So I'm looking at that, and I like to build. I like to design and build, so to say. Well, what's that? I guess architecture. I'll check that out. And I started looking at it, and it was neat, but it just seemed kind of boring. there's limitations. Like you pretty much are going to be designing a doorknob for the first few years, designing a door the next few years, finally getting design, that kind of feel. Like it takes you a while to get to really designing some really cool stuff. Not only that, you're only limited to, building and designing areas or, architecturally kind of stuff, right? So I didn't really like that. I'm like, well, what else is creative that has more of a wide gamut of things to pick from? I started researching, graphics and design and that kind of stuff, the stuff we do. And that was the biggest appeal that I'm like, oh, wow, you can do all sorts of stuff. And this is before, I hate to date myself, but this is before web design. Web just arrived on the scene pretty much. And we're talking about websites back then where literally a left-hand colored bar of where your navigation is and a top header and then text in the middle. So there wasn't really any web design. And so just all the other aspects of design that you can get into just was really appealing. It's really neat. And I'm like, okay, I like the ability that I can choose multiple facets to get into, right? And so I started pursuing graphics and design and that kind of stuff for that exact very reason. So, getting into it, then web, started on the scene too. So you basically have, print, you have web, you have, branding from the ground up, ad agency, advertising, photography, what else? Digital spaces, digital advertising, events. Man, I can keep going on, and then it breaks down to even smaller stuff. And so if I was a student again, if I was back in those footsteps, like I think I'd be just excited about the many opportunities. I would do what I did back then. I would try to learn several of the ones that really stuck out to me. For instance, video and even web or any type of presentation. I like the fact that you can tell a story, that you can animate and things to convey a story, to convey a message or what have you. Print, I love the tactile feel of old school 500-ish years of technology. Still has this really cool appeal to it even today. Large format graphics, branding, to create a company, photography. I love photography. I actually bring that into my ad agency and been doing a lot of photography this last year or two or so. And, that part, just basically as a supplement to ads, to branding, to whatever it might be, that's really, really awesome. It's one of those things like, what do you really what clicks with you kind of thing, and then just start pursuing it. But the cool thing about design, if you get tired of it or you want to pursue something different, you can do that in conjunction with what you got going. And that's actually what's helped me a lot. I can do, very right brain and left brain type of design. So I can do web design and just the strategy and the technicalities of it and all that stuff. I can do that. So I can design and I can build out, but then I can switch over to, ad campaigns, print, those type of, more creative, aligned stuff. And what that makes me is basically just more valuable in my skill set. So if I was a student, pursue what really clicks, but then just keep pursuing, keep learning. Like if there's another avenue, like, oh, I think I want to check out video, pursue it hard. And then you're like, I want to check out web design, pursue it hard. And just get really good at it. So that's the cool thing about this field. You can dabble in so many different things, and it's truly fun.
You know what? You made me think of something. You have your hands on many parts of the project. I know some people and some agencies, they have to farm out a lot of work, right? They may say, well, I'll help you with this part of it, maybe create your content creation, your logo, and even your website. But on the website, I'm going to, farm out the photography. I might
Right.
farm out this part of the project. Now with you, your skill set is so vast. You actually have your hands, I think, most of the part of all your projects. If someone wanted to go your route and have an agency, what minimum skill sets do she or he have to have, or do they have to have everything you have?
You don't have to have everything I have. I mean, the opposite of that would be find a niche and pursue that. And, a niche in any type of market is typically a smart thing, because the one thing that I would say my style to the other side of that double-edged sword is that if you dabble too much and you don't master it, you dilute yourself. So sometimes basically mastering just one or two areas or what have you, that's a very smart thing to do. You don't have to do what I do. I do it because I think I'm infinitely curious, which again is a double-edged sword. It drives me to pick up and learn things and master things, but on the other hand, I can't be satisfied. And so I'm like always going, trying to find, trying to get really good at something and then trying to get really good at another thing and that kind of thing. And so for the typical person, that could easily be exhausting. So there's nothing wrong with, pick something, pursue it hard, whatever that, if you like more print, go for print. If you like more web, go for web. If you like that technical / design aspect, go for something that aligns that way. I would say bare bones, pretty obvious answer, but design, get really good at design, not just seeing, not just, what do you want to say? Like, not just observing good design, because anyone can do that. Like, oh, that's good design, that's bad design. Get good at creating good design. Get good at, just thinking conceptually. And that's a training thing. I mean, when I was in design school, they actually rated the projects. When I was in class, and the professors would line it up from best to worst. I was always at the end. I mean, tail end. Maybe once I was second to last. I was awful. Like literally, I almost dropped out after the first year and didn't go back. And I did for some, mainly because I didn't know what else to do. I was terrible at creativity, awful. And I learned technical sides of it, the software, the print techniques, how to build a website and all that stuff. I learned the technical side of everything. And then I just started practicing the creativity side. And after a while, I found out that can be trained. You can learn creativity. So I guess what I'm trying to say, bare bones, learn creativity, learn design, get really good at it, produce it, get good at thinking that way. Just think uniquely, I hate to use the old cliche outside of the box, but, learn to just kind of live that way and just think that way on things that come up. Let's see. From there on, learn the technical side of things. So, for instance, software. You want to be doing some type of software, whether you're doing video, whether you're, let's say you're in music production. That's not really even design, but let's say, you take off and it takes kind of a different turn. You start going in, you're still going to be based off of some type of software these days. Everything's ran by software. Learn the software, learn the technical side of the business really, really well. In conjunction, eventually learn the personal side, like business. Learn to, I know it sounds ridiculous, but learn how to talk to people. Learn how to sell. Learn how to learn, maybe it's a certain industry that you're in. Learn how the industry operates and all that stuff. Because again, that's a technical side that eventually, the more you master, the more you're going to be that go-to person above everyone else, just because you know the ins and outs, you know how things work in the industry, in that company, or in just interpersonal relationships, right? And so learn the personal side, learn the technical side of business and design, and then start just practicing whatever your craft is. If you go into video, just, start putting out a lot of content and practicing and just getting good. If you go into photography, get out and shoot as much as you can. If it's print design or even just, branding from the ground up, learn how to, draw logos on paper and then produce it on computer and just build off of that. So that would be the advice that I would give.
There's definitely an acquired mastery of your craft that some people don't know this and suspect that you have to be born with this talent, or if you start out and you're not as good as everybody else, that you think that this career may not be for you.
I can vouch real easily that that's where I started, and if you're either stupid enough like me or determined enough, you can learn.
Yeah. The one common denominator, because I know I have another friend who's started out probably not as talented as most people's portfolios. The one common denominator is just the want to and the grit and the passion for the industry, the thirst to learn more, expand your knowledge, grow as a designer. And a lot of these things are acquired. And not to get so philosophical in life, really. I've seen.
I was about to say, in everything, you will not get anywhere if you don't want it bad enough.
Well, I actually seen the opposite as well too, where somebody was given everything. Maybe they were starting off with a lot of talent, and they just rode that talent, and they never expanded on that. Whether it's sports or in business or in your career, they may rely on the fact that things came too easy for them, and they never progress from that. And the other side of that is people like yourself, like you said, very humble beginnings in terms of your talent, and then look where you have a successful agency today. Let's just touch upon a little bit about your background, because piggybacking on what I just said, people may think you have to be born a savant in creative to actually have a creative career. What was your background, and how did you decide to pursue a creative career?
Sure. Let's see. I mean, it's definitely nothing glamorous by any means. I was a high school dropout. I have a pretty crazy upbringing as far as not traditional, not, it was a struggle. It was a survival style of life. Raised by a single mother, had lots of just adversity, I guess. Looking back, I'm kind of glad for it, because again, it gives you that thirst to get out of that hole, to make something better of yourself, whatever it might be. And so I mentioned it before, dropped out of high school for about 3 years and found out a way to go back and pursued it hard. And then, that brought up another opportunity of, well, what am I going to do for college? Well, if I go to college, what kind of career do I want to pursue? What kind of things do I like? And then you start pursuing that, and then you choose a college. And I just chose a college that I wanted one of my friends to go to, and no one knew what they were going to yet. And I had one friend that was going so far away from Tulsa, and at the time I lived in Mississippi. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll follow you. I'll follow anyone. I just want to be somewhere where I know someone. And so I went there, and I started off at a school that I really didn't care for, and it was kind of depressing. And then I'm around all these art prodigies that are just freaking amazing. It's like, yeah, I just doodled this. And I mean, it just looks like a masterpiece. And my stuff looks like, a stick figure that, a 5-year-old kid can probably do better than I am. And I'm like, why am I here? But the crazy thing is that I literally hitched a ride with a lady that's going that way that I met the day before. That was a friend of my mom's. And I'm not getting back home. So my life, the way that it was, is like, this is your only opportunity, Matt, and you have no other opportunities. And not only that, you have no way back home. I had a couple $100 in my pocket from graduation from high school, And I literally packed all my stuff and on a trailer bed, helped pull a trailer when I was just a teenager. First time ever. I was just sweating it. Like, took 5 days to get from Mississippi to Oklahoma. We had to make many stops. And anyways, I got there, I unloaded, and it's like, you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how to survive, how to eat, how to, purchase books. I didn't have enough. Like, I had to make that money last all year long. So I couldn't purchase all my books. I couldn't do this. I couldn't design. I was under a weight of a lot of things. I'm like, what are you doing here, kind of thing. But the cool thing is, well, I have no other choice. I'm not going back home. So I have to make it. And it was good. Like, I'm glad I had that, because even when I started in design school and I kept seeing my projects at the tail end of everything, that was disheartening. I will not lie. It was a little bit harsh, but I came back, let's see, after that first year of college, I came back home. And I got an internship / small job working at a print shop, a little small print shop. And one good thing that I've always had going for me is I observe. And so I would just observe how these, massive machines, $200,000 binder collator machines are working. And I was just a delivery guy, but I would observe the presses and all that stuff. And so they would have me help out in the back a little bit. And one of the guys like, hey, I have to leave for a little bit. Can you watch the machine? If it jams, because those things jam all the time. And it jams, just push the stop button and I'll fix it later on. All right, cool. Well, I was watching how he was doing it for a little while, and he came back and it's still running. He's like, it didn't jam on you? I'm like, yeah, it did. He's like, well, how do you get it, running again? Like, I was watching you. He's like, oh my gosh, like that. Wow. Okay. All right. Anyway, saying all that to say, like, I would just observe around me. And the cool thing is that being in a print shop, I was going to design school. That's that technical side that I was talking about. And so I was able to get, like, my feet wet in a real life application. Well, then they started bringing me into the typesetting room, and that's where the software was. And like, hey, heard you're in design school. You want to play around with some of this, and just for fun, we'll give you some small little projects and you can do it. I'm like, sure, give it to me. I'd love it. And I started doing this. And of course I would ask questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And so I got my feet wet with the software way before. I mean, when that first year, it was all, old school, fine art, hand drawn design. That's why I was terrible at it. But the cool thing is that I came back my second year, and like I said, mainly because I kind of wanted to drop out, but I didn't have anything else to do or anything going for me. So I just went back because I was really out of options. And so I went back to college, the same school. And that year we started learning the software. And I already had an upper hand on it. And I got this, my mom helped me get this really, really outdated old Apple computer that was already several years old at the time. Had 16 megs, not gigs, 16 megs of RAM. And it barely did anything, but I was able to load some design software. And we're talking about like one of the first couple of versions of Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that. I mean, back then I would draw just a simple Illustrator graphic and it would take a few seconds to render out. That's how it was hilarious.
It's a long time ago.
Back then, Photoshop had one undo. So you had to get really good at like not making mistakes. So yeah, I'm really dating myself. But the cool thing is again, under those kind of stipulations, under that adversity, you had to train yourself to get really good. Well, I get back to school and I already have this upper hand of knowing the software, that technical side that I was talking about. And it was funny because then the tide started shifting real quick. Now my friends and my classmates, they'd be like, Matt, how do you do this? Matt, how do you, that kind of thing. Then one of my teachers noticed, or teacher's assistant, but he was the one that was teaching the software classes. He noticed that I would pick up on that stuff really well. He offered me an internship. That's when web design started happening. And he's like, hey, do you want to, I'm offering internships. I'm like, I'll take it. And then he got a really awesome job at a newly formed interactive agency. And he brought me along with him. And now I'm getting my feet wet in the real world, in the like a real interactive agency job my sophomore year. I mean, that's just really awesome. I mean, super fortunate to have that. And he brought me along, and I remember there are times that I would just like kind of kick out a job, or I'm sorry, not a job. It would be kick out a project. It would be a class project. And he would basically say, no, you're better than that. I want you to redo it. And I was kind of like, I was working 3 jobs at that time to survive for 35 to 45 hours a week, plus 18 and a half credits. I was sleeping on average 4 to 5 hours a night, weekends included. Like I had no life whatsoever. It was literally work and school all throughout my college lifespan. And so I was literally just like trying to kick out stuff just to get the project out. And he would push me like, I know you're better than that. Like, man, it's not bad. It's not bad, but you're better than that. So I would have to redo it. Anyways, that was my college life. And that's what formed me to become, even better. That also gave me that work ethic of, I can burn the candle at both ends. I can kick butt. I can, do all these things. It was being forged in those college years. And so that plus the opportunities that started coming in because of, I learned that technical side of it. By the time I graduated 3.8, 3.9 GPA, full honors, and also like a portfolio that was pretty good to where a lot of my classmates were like, I'm not ready to go to the workforce. Can you help me with this? Can you teach me the software? Can you, all that stuff. Now, looking back, it was not that great. I mean, it was a design student portfolio. And again, even after college, I remember I wanted to master every software that came out, every new version that came out, and I still attacked it from a technical side. Fast forward, when we started working together at the same company, when you guys brought me in, I knew the software really well. And so if things to order, and also print it, because we were putting out like some proposals that were all done in print back then. And so it's that technical side that now going into the job market, let's say the creative, it still could be, worked on and all that stuff. But that technical side of, well, that's not going to work because it won't print that way, but I'm going to, give the files to where, we're down to the wire and we have to get this, the deadline is literally just hours away and we still have to print it, blah, blah, blah. And everything's down to, very last minutes. I need to hand off a print file that's not going to blow up on you. And back then, it's real easy for technical problems in print to occur all the time. So my print files would be bulletproof because I knew how things printed, and therefore I would, it all kind of comes together, right? And that's kind of how I started, and that is what really just, I think, set me up for success.
Just because, like I said, we're friends, you have this theme of, I don't know if it's the words fearless, but I'll give you an example. Like one week you'll say, I'm renovating my bathroom. And I'm like, the way I think is like, I would get somebody who does that for a living to do that job. And you're like, no, I can do it myself. You do things on your own and you're not afraid to explore and learn a new skill set and figure it out. And I think most people that are afraid to start their own endeavor and an agency is because and this is for designers out there, and this includes me, I have a certain skill set And sometimes it is scary when someone asks you to do something outside of your skill set, whether to learn something new. And you're never that way. That's the one thing I've always noticed about you. You're never nervous to figure something out, explore, learn more about it. And you do that often over and over again, from car repairs, your own bathroom renovations. You just do everything on your own. And you may have had some shortcomings early on in your career in terms of your illustration skills and all that, but you make up for it plenty by not being afraid to explore and learn new things, which I think a lot of designers, including myself, sometimes it's uncomfortable to learn something new. It's you feel insecurities to do something new. So you defer to other people. And with an agency, you're supposed to be a creative solutions provider, and your client is not interested to know that you can't do something. They want you to be able to provide solutions. So thanks for that answer. I mean, because that's the one thing, like I said, I definitely recognize in you that you have that I greatly admire.
Cool.
Let's kind of wrap this up. Okay. I want to know, what do you define success? What makes you happy? Where do you want to go from here?
Let's see. I think it's not really the old school definition of success. It's not really money. I don't mind money. Don't get me wrong. So if it rolls in, all the better. But it's not that. It's literally, again, I mentioned it early on. This year has been a pivotal year for me, and I love what I'm doing. When I'm doing something creative, like a photo shoot or some kind of branding job, and I'm kicking out really good quality items that are going to set up my client for success, that you can easily see they were here, and now because of me, because they brought me in. And I don't like that rock star approach. It's not all about me. It's about me partnering with them. I love a good partnership. I don't want to be, the rock star. It's not all about me. It's not all about EVIN Creative. It's about EVIN Creative partnering with someone, and we both get each other, and we're both, the client and myself and my company, we're just producing great stuff. Not only that, when we are, like, for instance, when we're on a photo shoot all together, and I'm shooting the photos for the collateral to be put in, for a new product or new, photography, custom photography for their branding, we're having a blast. Like, literally, I'm around awesome, cool, fun people. We're creating together, and there's something about creating with people. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's because, creative people just enjoy creating. I think that's the allure that brings them into these type of, industries in this career. I think it's because we're artists. We love to create. And so if I'm creating with some really cool people, producing some really cool stuff that actually is getting a response in the marketplace, plus I get paid for that, that's my definition of success. I can do that all day long, every day, and I can do it all the way, through the night, and be almost a quote unquote workaholic, yet it's just life to me. It's me enjoying life. As funny as that is, it's not work. I don't see that as work. I just see it as, ooh, I get to do this again. And that's my definition of success. And like I said, I've been doing it this year, and I love it. I truly love it.
How much promotion do you do for EVIN Creative? Tell people you're out there, or is your work speaks for yourself, and your clients that have the experiences with you always give you a lot of referrals? I guess designers want to know, how much do you actually, use the machine to push out your agency to everybody for you to get more business?
Not enough. That's the answer. I've been working on it in the shadows lately. Especially this year, and I still don't have it quite there, but I've been building on it for the last several months, maybe even longer than that. But I need to, just because I need a presence out there. Here's the funny thing. I can do an amazing website for all my clients, yet mine is still just barely up into an area. It's that whole, like, the contractor can remodel everyone's house and make it look amazing, and yet his house is falling apart kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it is mainly because, I don't have time to do that. But I started recognizing, like, I need something out there. And so I've been building it, but I want, again, whatever I put my finger, my hand to, I want it to be really good. And so it's taken a while to build my case studies, to source the images, to source the imagery, to source the story of what I want to tell, just so that, everyone, it's not just pretty pictures and pretty designs. I actually want to say, this is exactly the whole entire thing that we did for this client and that client and all that. And there's some really cool, compelling stories in that. And I have to really sit down, and for someone to do it all, like what we were talking about, it takes a lot of thought, planning, sourcing, all that stuff. So everything from compelling imagery, I got to source and create all that, because I'm not just taking, I designed this and throwing it up there. No, I'm trying to convey a story of what exactly we did. To writing it, to putting it on a site that produces well, that views really well on a web, on a desktop, all the way to responsive views. And you just get that, like, I'm treating myself as one of my clients. And it takes a while, especially when I'm on the back burner, always. Like, my client comes and they come in first, obviously. And so I always push myself back. But I also am setting up to put more things on other avenues like social media, LinkedIn, and some really good, compelling, just articles about design, about, just things, just ways that we work, my thoughts, my feelings on the industry or whatever. It's like, well, maybe it's time to kind of share that and kind of push it out there as well. So I've been developing that. Saying all that to say this, there's not much out there, but I'm hoping by the tail end of this year, I'll be able to start producing and publishing that kind of stuff. So it's coming. It's not quite there yet.
We will look forward to that. And hey, buddy, I want to thank you for sharing your creative journey. That was really awesome. And just real quick, finally, just to be really clear, if somebody needs a website, photography, brand creation, what other things should people reach out to EVIN Creative for?
Let's see. What we specialize in is literally like brand creation. We call ourselves brand creators and enhancers. So if you need something from the ground up, we definitely can do that. If you need something just enhanced, whether that's a rebranding, all the way down to you need, other like pinpointed services of some sort, we pretty much do it all. Now, what that means is that we specialize in print, trade show exhibit, event graphics, and strategy, anything interactive, all the way from app development, app design development, web design development, web apps, digital advertising, photography, and a little bit of video. We've been diving a little bit into video lately. So pretty much your full gamut, but that's what we highly specialize in those areas.
Awesome. And give your website one more time to everybody.
Yes, it's EVIN Creative, EVIN creative.com.
All right. Well, thanks again, buddy. And everybody take care and goodbye.
Yep. Thanks for having me.